I'd like to announce that we're going to start the screen, even though the meeting didn't.
We're gonna do the indication. We're gonna have an indication.
I'm checking right now to see if we have any public comment.
What about the invocation and the public flag?
We're gonna do that.
Okay. Now, we got it down here, so.
Yeah. We're gonna do it because this is a regular meeting, it's just a call special
Okay.
meeting. So do everything just like we usually do that.
Yeah.
No,
No
no public comment.
Okay. If I could have your attention, please. It's 1:30. I'd like to call to order the Blinn College Board of Trustees special meeting for Wednesday, February 24th, 2021 at 1:30. In accordance with the Texas Government Code, Section 551.045, an emergency or urgent public necessity exists that requires immediate action by the board or an imminent threat to public health and safety or a reasonable unforeseeable situation exists following the recent declaration of emergency regarding the severe winter storms by the governor of the state of Texas and the president of the United States. Public access to this meeting is occurring again in rooms 2 and 3 of the Student Center located at 651 Blinn Boulevard, Brenham, Texas. And any member of the public who wishes to attend the meeting or make public comment at the meeting will do so in rooms 2 and 3 of the Student Center. As required by state law, this meeting is open to the public, but by telephone communications. The college is complying with the suspended proceedings of the Open Meetings Act in accordance with the sections 418.016 of the Texas Government Code. Members of the public are entitled to participate and address the college through remote connections. A live stream of this meeting is available on YouTube. the subjects to be discussed or considered are upon which any formal action will be taken are as follows. And items that do not have to be taken in any particular order. I'd call this meeting to order under the government code. The Texas Government Code permits the Board of Trustees to meet in closed executive session for the following, among other reasons: to consult with the college district's attorney on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, 551 prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. We will not have an executive session, so what I just told you, you can ignore that. I'd like to now ask Reverend Wells if he would give us an invocation, and ask Mrs. Bain to lead us in the pledge. If you would stand, please.
Let us pray. Father God, in the name of Jesus, God, the President, thank you for this day. We thank you, God, as we come through this expensive crisis, that you continue to bless your people. Send many afflicted to the righteous, Lord, that was our mouth. Thank you for our counsel, our students, our staff, our faculty, and this board. Bless us now to deliver us from evil. Jesus Christ.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state.
All right, thank you. Trustees, we appreciate very much y'all making time this afternoon to convene in this special session. As a result of the freezes and difficult weathers we've had the last week or so, there's some items that have come that are of a concern at the college, and the administration, I think, needs our well wishes and action to get them started, to get immediate repairs and things done that are going to take part across the district. So let me, Dr. Hensley, if you want to take it over, and then we'll go from there and have the discussion of what the situation might be for Blinn.
Thank you. Good afternoon, trustees, and to everyone in the listening audience. We hope you've been safe and sound, and your families and loved ones have been as well during this past difficult week. And we sincerely appreciate your responsiveness to coming to this emergency meeting scheduled for today, so that we can discuss and perhaps take some action that will expedite our ability to respond to the recent storm. With that, I would like to turn it over to, I believe, Ted Hayaski, our general counsel, who will start us off. Trustees, we'll be hearing this afternoon from Mr. Hayaski, from Leighton Schubert, from Richard Cervantes, and from Richard O'Malley. We would like to give you a conditions report on the status of where we are at Blinn regarding our facilities and what we did to prepare for them, what damage has occurred, and what we're seeing in the foreseeable future. Perhaps answering all of your questions leading to a potential action item that has been posted on your agenda that would allow us to continue with some immediate activities. With that, I'd like to turn it over to General Counsel Hayaski.
Mr. Hayaski, before you start, let me just mention to the rest of the trustees that if you come in, that Jim Cocorse is on the video, and Douglas is not here, but I've had the opportunity to visit with him several times over the last couple of days, and I know he's had some concerns, and he's expressed them to Dr. Hensley on some of the, wanting to know some of the action that we're going to take here today. So go ahead, Ted.
Thank you, Mr. Moser, Chancellor Hensley, distinguished members of the board. Item agenda 4A is the adoption of a resolution declaring an emergency related to the recent winter storm. It is a recommendation of the administration that the board adopt a resolution declaring an emergency related to the recent winter storm. The emergency declaration will provide the ability to more efficiently and effectively repair the damage to college district property in response to the recent winter storm by delegating certain authority to the chancellor, as well as in preparation for any additional declarations of emergency related to the recent winter storm. As a result of the storm, certain college district property is in need of repair. The college district's top priority is the safety of our students and employees. The college district goal is to facilitate the continuance of operations, allowing students to remain on track to meet their learning objectives and complete their studies. In order to achieve this, many decisions will need to be made outside of the normal method of operations and also in a timeline that is outside the college's normal pattern. Under the Texas Education Code, this board has the ability to declare an emergency when the operations of the college district are impaired due to an emergency or catastrophe. The recent winter storm caused damage to several college district facilities that will impair the conduct of classes and other essential college activities. In regards to those damages, and to the extent of these damages, I'm going to call on Mr. Cervantes and his staff to present the nature of these remedies.
Mr. Mosier, Dr. Hensley, members of the board, thank you all very much. Thank you all for meeting today to help us get on a path to getting some of this stuff resolved with what happened last week with our storm. I wanted to go through first and outline where the college was, where we were as a facilities department the week before the storm, and what we did preparatorily to prepare for the oncoming Arctic blast. Just real fast, we raised the temperature in each of the buildings in the district by 5 to 10 degrees from this normal set point prior to the storm. We wrapped all the exterior and exposed piping and hose bibs. We wrapped the water softeners. We inspected all of our air handlers to ensure water flow through the system. And in some of our buildings, we have outside air that comes into the building. We turned off those dampers so outside air could not be brought into the building. And then at our mechanical rooms, at the vents and the doors, we covered those as well to restrict the outside air. And then where we had attic access points, we opened those in buildings as well to provide some warmer airflow up into the attic spaces where we had that option. So those were the preventative measures we did and that we looked at in the week leading up to the storm to prepare for what was going to come. During the storm, after we had experienced a few issues in some of our buildings that I'll get to in a minute, we took some preventative steps as well. At our Swartz building on the Rellis campus, which we had no problems in, we decided to drain the fire suppression system the middle of last week. You'll hear in a minute that we've had issues in 3 of our buildings with fire suppression systems. So to get out ahead of any type of issue at Swartz, we decided to drain that one down with all the proper fire approvals, and the building was put on fire watch after that. But we were able to not incur any damage at the Swartz building with taking those steps. And additionally to that, we turned off all the domestic water to the academic buildings on the Brenham campus. We had students still in housing, so we weren't able to do anything into the housing units, but the academic spaces, which were not having any occupants, we turned off the domestic water. So that's what we did preemptively. Now I'd like to go through where we're at campus by campus around the district and give you an update of what either took place or where we're at today. Sealy campus, we had no issues. In the Schulenburg campus, we did have 5 exterior hose bibs that froze and leaked, and those were fixed last week, and the building is back functional, and it was never ever taken out of service, nor did it incur any water damage other than those leaks that we have already repaired. At the Rellis campus, the Swartz building, we talked about what we did preemptively there to drain the fire suppression system. Our building 8004 that we leased for faculty office space did not have any issues. The ag workforce building that we're a part of on the Relish campus did not have any issues. In the Academic Alliance building, which is another A&M building that we use that's across the street from our Schwartz building, it did have a fire suppression issue on the first floor that has since been repaired. They have some damage on the first floor they've got to tend to from a flooring and wall standpoint, but the second and third floor that we use for our academic spaces are available and in use, and all the safety thresholds are being met that our students are not in any danger by using the second and third floor. On the Bryan campus, if I'm going too fast or if y'all have any questions, please stop me. On the Bryan campus, we had two buildings that we had some issues in. The building D, the fire suppression system froze and leaked in building D. It happened between the first and second floors is where that piping was located that froze, and it drained into two suites, the Disability Services Suite and the Health Clinic in the D building. Both of the occupants of that space are being relocated somewhere else on campus. That's being organized and planned with Dr. Jimmy Bird and Sean Welch, and Dr. Busicki, I think, is working with that. Diane Lovell, I think, is working with that as well to get those occupants relocated to another location. And the areas that were affected by this water, all the water's been extracted. We are dehumidifying the space now as we speak. And we're doing additional moisture readings in the sheetrock and the ceiling tiles to determine the full scope of remediation once we need to start our build back in the D building. The G building on the Bryan campus had actually a coil in our air handling unit that froze. And this was a coil that is related to some of the preemptive steps that we had taken by checking the dampers and not allowing outside air in, but we had a failure somewhere in the system that did allow some outside air in, and it froze the coil in the air handling unit. Nothing in our control, but because our steps were taken, but it still did freeze there. That's what actually froze and caused the water leak. That too was between the first and second floor, and it resulted in some damage to some first floor classrooms. 5 classrooms were affected, and we have since extracted the water and getting that carpet removed and dehumidified, and that too will be a part of our build back process coming forward when we get a contractor on board. Those occupants of that space have also will be reassigned with other areas on campus. That's the extent in the Bryan campus. On the Brenham campus, Old Main has kind of been the one everyone's, a lot of folks have been talking about. Old Main happened, it was the first leak we had last week. It happened on Monday night at about 7:45 p.m. It was a fire suppression leak in the attic space between the 3rd and 4th floor. That drained water out of that fire suppression loop all the way from the 3rd, the 2nd, and into the 1st floor. When I got there that night, there was about 3 inches of water on the 1st floor that we were walking through. So we had some extensive water damage in that building, primarily in the west wing of that building. That night, we were able to get the water cut off, and the next day, we started the extraction and dehumidifying process with Blackman Mooring coming in to get set up to get us back on track for remediation. And there are other systems in that building that we are still inspecting. A couple have been done, but we're still going through the electrical, the HVAC, the windows, elevator, the fire alarm panel. Those are all still being inspected to see what type of damage we might have to deal with in some of those systems in the building. The occupants here have been scheduled for relocation as well. They've been notified and communicated with, and we have found other areas either on campus or remotely that they can continue to work. This building, it sounds bad, and it was bad Monday night when I walked in, but it's primarily walls and paint and flooring and some ceiling work. And I think once we get a contractor on board, I think we'll restore it and it'll look better than it ever did. I'm not too concerned with what we're going to end up with. I'm just concerned with where it is today. But I think we'll be fine at the end of the day. Tuesday afternoon, while we were up here, of still assessing some of our issues in Old Main, about 3 o'clock, we got a call that we had a fire suppression leak at Wheeler Hall. And so we actually got on that one pretty fast, but not fast enough to get the water cut off and to stop that fire where it broke from leaking. But that too is in the attic space above the third floor on two different breaks on two different wings, the east and west wing. And it drained through the third, second, and first floor as well. And caused, again, damage to sheetrock, ceiling, flooring that'll have to be replaced. And it's going to put that building out of commission for the balance of this semester for us to get get it all built back the way it was. So those were the big issues that we had on the Brenham campus, both at Wheeler and both at Old Main, both fire suppression related issues. In addition to those two, we had 7 buildings that had what I'm considering a small domestic water leak, very much like the one I had at my house on Tuesday night as well, where we had a pipe freeze, either in an attic space or in a wall space or something, something like that. Those buildings were Hellman, Lockett, Holloman, the Ag Science Building, Apartment Building 5 in the laundry room, and then Dryer Field on the restrooms and the concession area on the outside of the building. And then the PE building, actually, it started leak in our office and locker area in the mechanical room of the PE building. It started leaking, I think it was either Thursday or Friday. I don't recall the exact day. And we don't think that was necessarily freeze related, but it was storm related because we think it was a pressure issue with the city turning the water off and on, and a hydronic shock that it had on the piping is what we think caused that pipe to come apart in the PE building. But we're on top of it. All those areas have been extracted. All of them have been cleaned. We're going to replace flooring as we can going forward, and we're repairing the leaks. That's the most important thing. We're getting all the domestic leaks repaired right now. We've got a plumber on campus right now repairing leaks. So that's the extent of our damage, and that's what we did to prepare for it the week before. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Richard, I have a question that I don't know. So but on this fire suppression thing, is that just like your pipes for anything else up in the attic, or is there? If it's done, are they making any improvements in how to keep that from happening with fire suppression?
I think going forward, someone needs to look at that, Mr. Mosier. I'm not real familiar with how those systems are designed, but what I've seen is it's a non-insulated pipe. And it's usually about 2 to 3 inches in diameter and has a lot of water in it. It's completely different than our domestic pipe that we have in our house that's insulated or in attic space. And it happened all across the state in several buildings. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's not some new construction issues or new ways to implement installation of that going forward. But I was shocked too, to tell you the truth.
So is that connected to all the sprinklers?
Yes, all the sprinkler system. Mm-hmm.
The water ran through them?
Where it broke, where the pipe actually came apart is where the water came out.
I have another question, Richard. And you talked about the steps that y'all took.
Yes, sir.
Little Monday morning quarterback. If you have another storm next month, do you know anything you're going to do differently?
Yes, sir. We do.
Can you give us a little idea what some of it might be, or is it?
Well, it was certainly a learning experience.
Yeah.
And so, there's more I think we can do going forward, and we will do next time.
Yeah.
There's more about our systems, and one thing is having better access and knowing where all the different valves are in all the buildings to turn off the water and who might be responsible for that and who needs to be on call to come manage that when it happens. That was some issues that we dealt with, getting access into some of the buildings and some of the spaces. Yeah. There's some other areas that we would probably drain and just cut off completely.
Yeah.
Baseball field, for prime example, it should have been cut off if I had to look back and do it over again.
Yeah.
Did you say all main with the fire suppression?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you drain those or not?
Well, we did it Swartz building preemptively because of where we were and what we saw had happened. But that causes other steps to happen from a safety standpoint of the building. And so that building was put on fire watch after that, which meant a police officer had to do a 1 hour walk through 24 hours a day through that building while the suppression system was not active. And so it triggers other responsibilities for the building.
She needs to turn the mic on. Trustees, just a quick reminder, when you speak, if you could turn your mic on, thank you.
Yeah, if it's lights up.
Okay. I didn't want anyone else to hear. No.
Yes, sir.
Any other quick?
I think I'm on, and I'm on now. I'm definitely on now, but thank you for all of your labor and hard work. And there was no damage to the student center nor the cruiser center?
No, sir. No, sir.
Like if you were gonna cut off the suppression in the old main, would you have to tell the city or call the city or?
When we took it off, Mr. Moser, that night, our police department started their fire watch. That night, Monday night it happened.
Okay.
Correct. And just to put a little bit of I guess, in context, we've got 17 buildings on the Burnham campus that have fire suppression systems. And so 2 of them broke.
Yeah.
And that's just to put a little context with it. We've got 17 of them, so. And all of the buildings in Bryan have that fire suppression system.
Hey, Richard, this is Jim Kokorst. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Quick question on the individual buildings, particularly the buildings that were not being occupied at that time because there was no classes and that type of thing. Do we have individual shut-off valves that it would be potential or possible to just cut the water off to those buildings?
All the academic buildings, yes, sir.
Okay.
And we
Yeah,
did that, Jimmy, I think Mr. Colkhorst, on either a Wednesday or Thursday of that week. I don't recall the exact day. While we were still in the freeze.
Okay. So probably next time, if there's nobody in those buildings, we probably could just cut the water off and drain them.
We could.
Okay. All right. Good deal.
Any other questions regarding?
But you can't cut the fire suppression off
No,
without having to go through going through that fire protocol, right? Yeah, so it's kind of a catch-22, isn't it?
Well, and let me back up a little bit without getting a lot of detail and way out of my lane of what I know, which is then take me very long to get out of that lane. But you're right, we can't cut off the fire suppression system without triggering other items. Also, Mr. Colkhorst, some of our HVAC units require makeup water as well that require that water flow through the building. And so it could get tricky or technical on each building with what our opportunities are to cut the water off completely. If that makes any sense.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Richard. We appreciate y'all's work. Appreciate all the staff, the team that came out and that was doing all that. That's we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Moser, also would like to discuss a little bit about the emergency declaration that you're about to discuss, about the 2 aspects of it that need to be brought forth to the board. The first of them is that there's going to be a delegation of authority from the board to the chancellor to negotiate these contracts for these repairs. In some cases, that negotiation may exceed the threshold limit of our normal contracting responsibilities. So that's one aspect of this emergency declaration. The second part of it is it also allows the administration then to expedite, so to speak, the process. So we do not go through the normal contracting period of putting out a request for proposals, waiting delays and that type of thing. So those are two essential elements in this declaration that you need to be aware of.
Okay. Any questions of Ted, of Mr. Hayaski? Or is somebody going to kind of update us on the insurance coverage and, you know, what our out-of-pocket cost and what we're thinking, what we're looking at and that sort of thing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. Yeah, all that's bad news, and I want to really congratulate Richard for and thank him for all the hard work, because he was up here and he was going through all the stress and saved me from having to go through it. And I always like that, Mr. Chairman.
I noticed you didn't even introduce him today. You just sent him up there straight
He
up.
needed no introduction today, sir. That's the bad news. The good news is that we had $260 million worth of insurance to cover all of our buildings, and it doesn't look like we're going to come anywhere near needing all of that. We also have a $25,000 deductible for all the damage that is going to take place. There have been people that have been relocated, students in particular, that we've had to move from the dorms. Fortunately, we had enough room in other dorms that we could move them there, but we did move them to Mill Creek, our private carrier, and they were able to accommodate that easily enough for us, but there's cost associated with that. Even that, Mr. Chairman, is covered. 100% will be covered for us. So we're not going to be anything out but the $25,000 deductible, or at least that's what we're hearing at this point in time.
$125,000 for the whole.
$125,000. And Mr. Chairman, I know Mr. Bohart would especially appreciate hearing this. The $25,000 was budgeted, sir. So we're good to go. There are other implications of that, and that's part of why we're meeting today, to ask you for permission to be able to move forward. At first blush, we thought that the insurance or the carrier may pay these contractors directly, but it turns out they will not. So in turn, what will happen is those invoices will work very closely with them, and as we receive invoices from the contractors, we will review them to make sure that they have done what they've suggested, and then we will then turn that over to the carrier, and the carrier will review it. They will then cut a check back to Blinn, minus our $25,000 deductible, and then we will pay the contractor directly. So that's the good news. We had the adjusters out here the second day. Richard mentioned that on Monday evening, the pipes burst. And on Tuesday, we had contacted them. I shouldn't say we had contacted the adjuster and let them know we had a claim that we were going to file. And then they came out on Wednesday and they surveyed the damage on the Brenham campus. They have not made it out to the Bryan campus. They'll go out there on Monday, I believe, next week. And then they'll also come back here to see if there's anything new that's happened since they left here. So as far as the insurance is concerned, I think we are in really good shape. I'll stand for any questions.
How do we do this? I mean, how do y'all do this now? Do you we contact people to try to do certain works, and how quickly can you get people to do this kind of thing, Richard?
Yes, sir. On the Brenham campus, for example, where there's a clear distinction between the scope of the project, we are already getting bids for in the locket, in our dorms, in our PE building, some of those areas that were damaged, and we're treating those as a much smaller job, really more of what we do on a daily basis anyway, with other issues that we might have in spite of a storm. And so we're handling those separately, and we'll manage those more or less through our facilities department on getting that contractor in to get whatever wall needs to be fixed, or sheetrock or whatever needs to be painted, or flooring fixed. Old Main, Wheeler Hall, Building D and Building G, we will look for a general contractor to hire to come in to help manage those larger projects. Probably set something up like we do with the construction manager at risk, where we'll develop a scope of work and ask them to give us a guaranteed maximum price. We'll work all this and coordinate with our insurance company to make sure they're on board for the reimbursement, and we'll probably treat it more or less with a larger general contractor coming in for those projects. And we're going to look for someone that has experience with the college and has availability to come in to get the work done. I might be way out of line with saying this, but my goal is to have all this stuff done and completed and back online by the fall. Now, that's before I've talked to a contractor to know if he's available and materials are available, but that's certainly what we want to shoot for, is to have things back online for the fall.
Yeah. That's good. All right, trustees, does anyone have any questions regarding what we're doing here? We're just expediting this process and turning it over to the administration to get to work on it. And go ahead.
Dr. Hensley, you tell me to stop if you need to, but I'm going to add one little wrinkle, if that's okay. In Old Main, for example, we have some aging systems in that building, HVAC primarily, that were not affected by the storm. With this building being offline for the next 5 to 6 months, we're going to investigate the opportunity to replace some of those aging systems to see if it makes sense to do it now with the building being offline. We will bring that back to the board once we know a scope and a dollar amount that would include, and that would be a separate authorization from you if you so choose to go forward with those improvements. But we're going to maybe take advantage of having an empty building to do some other work in.
That brings up the question for some of us, what all is being serviced in Old Main? I mean, what all departments are in Old Main, and are they going to have to, where are they going to move? Or they got places to go, or are they, what's the situation on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a good question. It's we love to tag team. So there are 52 employees that were in Old Main, and then of course there were students there that were taking classes, and the faculty too. Our plan was to relocate those as quickly as we can. We learned quite a bit with the working remotely, so some of that will continue to go on, but a plan has been put into place where we've gathered all the information that we can. I went through that this morning to see where we could, what is being suggested to us. They're going to go to the IT. Some of them will go to IT. There's areas there over there, empty areas over there that they've used for other purposes, and we're going to move some of the cubicles over there. Some of them will come into this building. Financial aid has some space, in office space as well as outside. Accounting is going to move over as another one that's in that area. They're going to also move over to the IT area, but some of them are going to come over here too. Budget office will move over to the IT area. They're all it's usually the facilities is going to continue to go to the plant area, but there's a lot of people in there. Institutional research is going to work remotely. A lot of different departments, but right now we have a place for all of them. We haven't executed that yet, but we have the plan in place.
I hate to be the only one to ask questions, but the Old Main buildings, since it's kind of been the focus here on that's the one that the most attention to it. But is our long range plan that's being done, or work that's being done by Gensler, is that are they looking at that facility, and are they going to? And you brought it up about the air conditioning or the new system. I mean, do we need to tie any? Is there anything in there that's going to interchange, or give us cause for discussion? Or
Their recommend, and Dr. Hensley can speak to this too on what they have planned, but the administration space, I think, is the long-term view for Old Main, and not classroom space. But that decision's not been made. It's going to be a recommendation that'll come out of the master plan. And so anything we're doing now is not going to be dollars it's dollars we still need to spend.
Still be good.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
One other thing I want to add about Old Main, and I'm sorry I'm bouncing around on it so much, but there was a question about ADA and if this could trigger some ADA issues in Old Main. And the other outstanding item is it's a historical building as well. So we're going to be working with the Historical Commission, reaching out to them, let them know what happened to see if there's any additional guidelines we have to follow on our build back. But we don't anticipate any ADA issues.
How did our new windows hold up?
I can show you some icicles that came down the building, but we'll have the window people coming out to look.
Yeah.
It's going to be assessed. Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody have any other questions or if,
I do have one quick
All right.
one, and I turned it on this time. As far as the dorms, are they going to be ready in the fall, or is there space for all the students that? Oh, it's Richard's turn.
The smaller dorms they'll be ready hopefully this week
Okay.
for use. And so we're not going to lose the use of the smaller dorms. Wheeler Hall will be off through the balance of this semester and through the summer. And we're going to make every effort we can that impacts enrollment. So we'll make every effort we can to get it back online by the fall.
Just a follow-up on the insurance on your questions. That too is covered. So if it turns out that the dorms are not available to us, lost revenue then becomes an issue that's also covered under the insurance, but it has ceilings associated with it. We're going to use about half of it, I think, already with what we do this semester. So it won't be a full recovery, but it'll be pretty good for us.
all right, Ted, do we need to read this resolution or can we just adopt it? The resolution that has been presented to you or given to you ahead of time, I don't know if everyone has read it, but it basically just allows the administration to move forward and get these bids in and get the work started as quickly as they can and do it with within the guidelines of our insurance coverage. So do I hear a motion that we approve this resolution?
I move that we approve the resolution of the Board of Trustees of Blinn District to make the
Well-
necessary. Yeah.
We have a motion from Mr. Wells. I have a second. We have a second from Mrs. Bain. Any discussion? Jim, you out there? You heard all this?
I'm here. I heard it.
Okay. You're okay with everything we got going here. All right. Dennis, any questions? Rebecca?
No.
Teddy, any other questions about any of this? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Say no. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Trustees, I believe that's all we have. And Mrs., do you have anything, Dr. Hensley?
Trustees, once again, thank you so very much for your support and your governance and your guidance during these difficult, trying times. I would like to take a moment to thank everyone across the entire college district. You heard what a marvelous job our facilities staff did and our maintenance crews. I applauded them every step of the way. They have done an absolutely admirable job, and we're so appreciative, Richard, to you and your leadership, and Richard, to you and your leadership. Thank you. Other areas of the college continue to operate, not perhaps to the degree of notice, but academics have continued to operate beautifully. Our online classes, when we transferred to closure last week, operated beautifully. It's difficult for everyone because everyone was experiencing water shutoffs and water boils and floods and leaks, and yet they kept everything going. And so they always kept, I think, Blinn first and foremost as how we could serve our students and keep this institution going. And I publicly applaud our faculty and staff for doing that. The same I would say for all of our student services staff. They kept responsive to all of the hundreds of inquiries that we had from students day and night, 24/7. The staff has been responsible and grateful for your leadership as trustees. With that, I thank you most sincerely on behalf of all of us, our faculty, staff, and students, trustees, for all that you do in leading Blinn towards its beautiful future. With appreciation, we will continue to keep you posted on everything that we are doing, and we are very optimistic that we have a clear path forward on everything that we've discussed today. Appreciate you.
I'll remind the trustees that we have delayed all of our activities that were on the agenda for February. We'll take those up in March at the meeting next week, I guess, the week after next. So we'll have a pretty full agenda there, and we'll also have our budget workshop. So if you would, if everyone can make an effort, that'd be great. I'm reminded as we conclude, I read on the internet that somebody said that 2020 was a year from hell, and with the COVID and so forth, and they said year 2021 is the year that hell freezes over. So we've had a great start here. So I hope at some point it's got to turn. That's what they always say. It's got to go the other direction. So, but we appreciate the good work of the staff and the administration. I hope you'd extend to everyone that we appreciate their work, and Richard particularly, those guys that are out there in the cold, and we appreciate it. So appreciate it. All right, that concludes. Do I hear a motion? We adjourn. We have a motion from Dr. Krausen and a second from Mrs. Ayler. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank y'all so much.